Dr. Beckford, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, ladies, for having me. Let's go ahead and kick some assets.
Yes.
Welcome to Ladies Kickin Assets. We have an amazing, very special guest with us today, Dr. Tamara Beckford. She is from the Houston area. She is an ER doctor, and she is a powerful, powerful speaker. She has a message. She has another business line that she's working on. It's about wellness. And it's Your Caring Docs. But I also, before we jump into questions, I need to introduce and recognize my partner, Courtney Moeller, over here. And we just ask that all of you who are watching would subscribe to our channel. We are about empowering women with the educational information that they need regarding financial information to empower them to make decisions and live the lives that they want to live. We are not experts or financial advisors, but we do know a thing or two, and we've had some amazing guests on our show who are going to pour into your life and kind of show you some tricks of the trade of what they've been doing. So anyway, Dr. Beckford, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thank you, ladies, for having me. Let's go ahead and kick some assets.
Yes.
So kind of on our pre-conversation, I had to stop us so that we could make this a part of our conversation. You just attended a seminar, and I just excited both of us about this book. So tell us about it. Tell us what you're doing.
Yes. Okay. So the book that I just showed it's called Don't Shrink Your Dream, Enlarge Your Faith. It's by Terry Saville Foy. So many of you probably grew up on her dad, Jerry Saville, who is a minister. Yeah, so Terry is Jerry's daughter, and she has a faith-based ministry here, actually in Texas. It's in Rockwall, Texas. I know, it's over by you, Courtney. Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to check that out. I had
We need to go. Let's do a field trip.
So she had a conference over the weekend called the icing conference.
Oh,
and icing. So it's she says that the cake is good, but the icing is even better. And that's why she named it the icing conference. That she's had it for a couple of years now. Now, this book, Don't Shrink Your Dream, Enlarge Your Faith, is something that she has a show, a podcast also that she runs, and I remember her talking about it. She's all about goals and dreams, and she's like the vision board queen.
Yes.
So she was talking about, this year that her goals, the year almost was like halfway through. It's around like July. And she's noticed that like her 10 goals, her personal goals, she hadn't really gotten any of them fulfilled. And she's like, how is this happening? I'm the vision board person. I'm the goals queen. It wasn't occurring. So with her time that she usually sets a time for her and her spirituality in the morning, she said she was going to, probably shrink her dreams. And then she heard the Lord said to her, no, don't shrink your dreams. Enlarge your faith. And it was just so powerful. Yes, isn't that so powerful? Because there are a lot of times when we are trying to achieve things in our lives and it seems so insurmountable. And then a lot of times we said, well, maybe I'm dreaming too big, or who am I to do this? So it says, instead of really starting to shrink yourself, which is what a lot of us do, like, look at us, we have big personalities and people tell you all the time, oh, you're just too loud, you're too this. And what do we end up doing, especially as women? And I'm speaking to us ladies, because we have this tendency, right? If you have a little girl who's outgoing, then it's just like, oh, she's too boisterous. Then once you get into the point when you're like a young lady or a woman, she's too bossy. It's not like, oh, she has great leadership skills, she's too bossy. And then you hear that consistently over and over. And what do we end up doing? We start to shrink.
It adds this component of self-doubt. And
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just like,
you got to embrace that.
Yes, exactly. So a lot of times we end up shrinking. So she says she began to well, she thought about it because once she heard the word, she said, "Oh no, enlarge your faith." So
Mhm.
she enlarged her faith and decided to, go full blown and was able to accomplish all 10 of her goals within the next 4 to 5 months. And it was just like, boom. But I just love that. And each time in my mind, when I start to doubt myself, those words come into my head. Don't shrink your dreams, enlarge your faith.
Mhm.
And, so I love that she has this book and I have it here just as a quick reminder.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. I love that.
Mhm.
Well, the power of the spoken word
Mhm.
is everything. It can
Absolutely.
define who we are and who we
Mhm.
are
Yes,
becoming. And we
absolutely.
want to usher in all that the Lord has in
Mhm.
store for us, not
Mhm.
not hamper that,
Well,
Yeah.
in
it's
every
interesting.
aspect of
I
our life.
just had a call before this one with a woman
Uh-huh.
that is helping me kind of channel, what God intended for me and to, you know, I guess really kind of have my affirmations and the things that I'm, kind of helping me get rid of like that doubt and things that are swirling around in me so that I can
Mhm.
really bring in and receive what God's intentions for my life are. So I love that you started off with this.
Yes, yes, no, it's just very powerful. And, a lot of times when we're going about our lives, we have to remember that we're still being guided by a greater principle. And so even with us here, like you think about even the connection with all three of us. Like this connection isn't something that was made like last week. This is me working with, Robin's daughter like years and years. And it's just been like an happenstance that she just mentioned, oh yeah, this. And I'm like, oh, well, oh, I'd love to, and look at all the connections that like gets put in place, but it's not from our doing. It's from like the divine
Yes.
ordering these things. And just as you mentioned, like right now, I'm showing this book, and 10, 15 minutes ago, you were on the phone with someone else who is helping you to enlarge your faith. Like, how powerful is this whole moment right now?
Mhm.
Yes. Yes. I'm just trying
Powerful.
to embrace those God whispers and, being able to
Yes.
clear my mind to receive it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you have to.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
have to. Well, tell us about your business, how that's really evolved. Because
Hmm.
when I look at like the X factor of time for
Hmm.
you, so much has happened in such a short window of time. And,
Hmm.
you've become what very professionalized in what you're
Hmm.
doing. And you can see that. So I'd love for you to really talk about that. And by professionalized, I mean, yes, you are a professional because you're a physician. And
Hmm.
that's not really what
Yeah.
I'm referencing. I'm referencing
Yeah.
like how you're purposing your message,
Hmm.
who all you've got tons of doctors that you're, having interviews with. And I
Hmm.
mean, it's all over the map with you. It's amazing.
It's really, like we say, it is a blessing to be able to be along this journey. And, for those who are listening, are probably like, who is this random person she
Right?
has on
This
this
random ER doctor from
ER doc?
Houston.
Yes,
Well, let's
alrighty.
give the hospital a plug because they need to go see you on the night shift.
So
It's true.
I am an ER physician, and we said like, yeah, I'm here in Houston. And one of I've been an ER doc now for almost like 13 going on 14 years.
Mhm.
So that's outside of training. So that's a day in, day out, day in, day out. There's this small little thing that occurred in 2020. I don't know if anybody's heard of it. It's like, COVID.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, this little thing that happened. Well, during that period, a lot changed in me, and that's brought me to where I am right now to be able to really speak to everyone. And the changes that occurred is that in addition to the fact that, of course, yes, there was an increase in demand, taking care of patients, you saw so much. It was an era where I had to kind of decide Like, which direction was I going? Was I going in the direction of fear, or is I going in the direction of like, essentially it was faith, because it was around that same time that I actually even delved a little bit further into my faith, but also in recognizing certain aspects of my life. So, fears up, sitting in the pandemic, deciding like, okay, am I going to be bringing this home to my family? I have young children at the time. They were 3 and 1. And, my 1-year-old just had like a respiratory issue and was in the hospital overnight a couple months before this whole respiratory virus brewed and came over. So now, I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do? At that time, I also, decided to start a business, because, everyone, 2019, you're like, I'm going to work on something. I'm going to start at the beginning of 2020. And then, of course, 2020 had its own set of plans. So, so as time progressed, one of the things that I did notice, a year, 2 years into this whole COVID and this pandemic era, is that I became more aligned. I became more centered. Yeah, which is like the opposite of what you'd think would happen.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Exhausted,
yeah, exhausted.
burnout.
I had more energy, and like you're saying, I'm doing more things and I'm more fulfilled. And it's just like, well, why is this happening to me during this period? While the first 10 years in medicine, I kind of felt as if it was a big fog. Like I was just constantly tired. I was constantly like, exhausted, and just like, not even thinking like, am I going to leave medicine, but just not having that drive that I'm having now towards life, and just really excited. So once I recognized what that was, and I realized, wow, that was self-care. And I'm like, I started to put myself first, and it was during a time that was needed, because I had to be strong and be there for my family. So I started to do things that I didn't realize were building me up. So a couple things that I did was, one, I had like a really good morning routine, which incorporated centering myself for the day before I entered into the day. Prior, I'd just get up and go, go where the wind blows. Oh, I have a meeting, or I have this or that. Get up, looking at social media. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm very excited for this person. Oh, I wish I looked like that person. All the craziness that goes into our minds. But instead of that, when I got up each day, I gave myself, time for me, and I poured into my mind. So my wake up routine is, okay, I'm reading the Bible, I'm reading a verse, I'm reading, I love doing the plans. And so I'm going from one plan to the other. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's interesting, and then I'll read a book on like self-improvement, different books along the way. And these are I think I did like 12 books like the first year. And I'm like, what? I hadn't read that many books. At first, you're going through it slowly. And some books might have similar themes, but they're different authors, different perspective. And it's pouring into me. And then I start going through my day when I'm reading my emails about, hey, this person is upset at you, or that it's not affecting me the same way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so now I'm not reacting. Yes, absolutely. I'm no longer reacting to this, like, oh my God, they think I'm a horrible person. I'm really not horrible. Instead, I start responding like, okay, well, let me see, what are some of the things that made this person feel that way? These are some of the things that I did. This is some of the things that they did. Let's sit and talk about it. Or I'll send a response saying like, hey, these are things that this is what I planned on doing, or these are my thoughts. And it's not taking things so personally when it has nothing to do with me, but that's how I respond. You get this pounding.
Yes.
Everyone's had that anxiety when you get an email from certain people, and you're
I do now. And it's like, oh my God, okay, I got to get this done.
Yes, absolutely. So I noticed that lessened, and I looked at that. So that was one of my things, my routine. And then the other really was, like I said, working on the mind. And then the other was really just spirituality. And it's not just spirituality in that, okay, reading the Bible spirituality. It was connecting with like-minded people in a spiritual sense. So those who had positive outlook on life, who were trying to better their environment, people who were trying to really uplift others, those were the people that I was around. So when you're hearing this, oh my God, we've had an increase, another spike is coming, a wave is coming, wave this, wave that. It stopped affecting me because I was working on self. So that builds me up to a point that it was unimaginable. My director is saying, wow, you're faring out a little bit different than your colleagues. What's going on? I told him, hey, that's what I'm working on. One of my other colleagues said, you're just so zen. I mean, like, you must really be practicing what you preach. Yes. Yes, I am. So that's what got me, to this particular point, is really recognizing the power of the self-care.
I think that's something, I was guilty of that, just waking up, checking social media, going along with my day. And I have changed and shifted that. And it really does. It changes your mindset for the whole day. And I think as women, we're really guilty of kind of putting ourselves last. I think that's just, we're shuffling all these things, kids and activities and work and whatever it is that we have going on. And I mean, I still, I'm guilty about my checkups. I'm guilty, everything happens for me last. I'm making sure all my kids have everything squared away and everything else. And I just kind of fall to the wayside. And I've really kind of shifted that. And I am taking that time in the mornings too. I have started incorporating that here just recently within the last month. And I also do it at night before I go to bed. And, I reflect on my day, the goals that I accomplished, and then I set my goals for the next day, think about what I'm grateful for. But then I start that next morning with prayer, but then also with, centering myself and, receiving my message for the day and the things that I need to focus on. Who can I serve? Who am I serving for the day? And it really does shift everything. It's crazy.
Isn't it so powerful?
It's so powerful. Yes.
It is.
One of the things that I've noticed too, like you're saying, like, just the shift. Look, this is a month. In 1 month, your whole perspective changes. But one of the things I wanted to point out, which is why it's so challenging for us as women, because this is a podcast for women. And let's just be real, ladies. We're not going to sit and make sure, things are cookie cutter and all peaches and roses, right? Even though we would like it to be. But if we think about how we have been trained through society for the entire time, that's why it's so challenging for us to put ourselves first. If you're putting yourself first, you're considered what? Selfish.
Yes.
Especially if you're a mom. Oh my goodness. I asked some ladies, what are some of the things that, how would you feel if you were to just do things for you? And some of the first, of course, answer is guilt. Because that's what happens to us consistently. We feel guilty. Oh, I'm a bad mom, I'm a bad parent. I didn't, do this first. But ironically, when you are giving from your overflow versus from the cup itself, it's so much better. I've done interviews, I've spoken to people who, this young lady, she has like 6 children. She was she says, she told her husband, she was like, I'm leaving for this conference. You're going to just have to handle this. And everyone's like, mom. No, she's just like, I was just at that point. When she came back, she was just so restored, renewed, and her cup has been full. And she was just like the best of herself. So now her kids are like, go to another conference.
Well, because when we take care of ourselves, we have so much more to give than when we're trying to do everything with our cups, half empty. I mean, everything comes from a different place, and it's from a better place.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Well, I loved what you said too about
Mhm.
how you were aligning yourself with folks who were like-minded, even though that was during a time where it was virtual, handled virtually.
Yes, absolutely.
You were still aligning yourself with those individuals. And Courtney and I have talked countless times about,
Mhm.
you're the summation of the, 4, 5, 6 people that you're really hanging out with. And so when
Mhm.
you can do that and you're hanging out or moving along with those folks who, they may not have the exact thoughts that you have, but they're
Right.
working on self-improvement.
Yes.
They're becoming the best version of themselves. Um,
Mhm.
Working
It
toward
affects you. Yeah.
goals and visions. Yeah, it does. It rubs off on you.
Mhm.
Continuously learning, challenging the mind, not
Yes.
just being in a place of complacency. Those
Yes.
are the people that you want to surround yourself with. And it doesn't mean that your other pre-existing relationships don't have to, not hang out with those folks anymore. It just means that, there's a place for those relationships, keep them because they're good,
Absolutely.
but,
Mhm.
kind of
If you
move in and
Yeah,
out.
if you're gonna impact, if you're building yourself,
Sure.
because here's the thing too that I've recognized, as I've noticed, I'm like, human beings, we're goal oriented. We
Mhm.
really sit. I mean, a lot of times some people might, try to feel, I don't really have any goals. No, we all have goals. So,
Right.
if you want to go to the supermarket to get food, that's your goal. What's your goal to get to the supermarket? Even no matter how small it is, we all have goals. So when we're now around, and we all have a period of time when we're like, there's more to life than what I'm doing right now,
Mhm. One of
and
one of the things that I learned about goals, though, and
Mhm.
I didn't mean to interrupt you,
No,
is that
no,
it's important for them to be measurable
no. Hmm.
and, really drill into them. And so when they are, then that prompts the action. Because
Yes,
otherwise, they're just like
dreams.
a New Year's resolution. They're not
We
really
don't talk about the New Year's
goal.
resolution from when
Yeah,
we're in
it's
October,
like,
almost
okay,
October.
I'm just like saying I wanna lose 30 pounds. Well, I wanna lose 30 pounds, blah, 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 and I don't wanna
Right?
have to give up food to do it. You know, or
Right.
my favorite things to drink or whatever, but
Mhm.
anyway, I'm just, as a point, I
Absolutely.
had to shift in my
Mm.
mind about goals and aspirations and
Mhm.
resolutions and what really are my goals. I had to
Mhm.
really, and then I had to think through, some of the things in my mind that I've been thinking about really, those aren't really goals. I
Isn't
do
that
agree with you
powerful?
that everybody has things that we need to do,
Mhm.
to get from point A to point B. How are you going to
Mhm.
do it? But, and I guess, actually, I guess that is a goal. But, I think that when we start talking about the framework of what we're going to set out there for ourselves, as
Mhm.
the book that you were referencing, and kind of evaluating where we are right now in our own personal lives and professional
Absolutely.
lives, and then taking time in the end of the year or in January,
Mhm.
set the trajectory for 2023. Those are some powerful things to think about in all these different quadrants, because health and wellness, mindset, you know um y-
Well,
you
that has
can't
a
do
huge impact on your ability to
everything.
accomplish your goals, and I have found that, last year when I set my goals, when, I thought, God, I don't know if I got enough done, when I sat back and reflected. So I think it's really important to even reflect back on your goals at the end of the
Absolutely.
time so that you can look, when I did that and I sat and listed out everything I had accomplished, I thought, holy cow, I did so much more than even what
Awesome
I set
stuff.
out to do.
Yes.
And
Yes.
blown away. So it's really important to set those goals, but after a certain time to kind of reflect back on them and look at
Mhm.
where you are.
And celebrate it. Celebrate.
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 Yes.
I
One of
mean,
the things as humans that we do is that, especially if you're a high achiever, which like most of us on this podcast, and those of you guys listening, yes, this is you.
yeah, it
You're a
is
high
true.
achiever.
It is true. I'll
This
accept
is you
that. I'll
too.
accept that. It is true.
It is true, because we're all like, yes, we're
Yeah,
gonna go
let's
out there, we're
go.
gonna conquer,
Yeah,
we're
we
gonna
are.
show you all how to do it.
Yeah.
And then at times we, as you mentioned, Robin, like, we like, okay, well, we have goals and we need to be able to measure the goals, right? And if we do not feel like we've accomplished it, a lot of times we get down on ourselves. However, as Courtney's mentioning, like each, periodically we have to sit back and really list out all the things that we have done, because that's, you realize like you might have accomplished those goals, but not the way you thought about it. This
Yes.
is interesting. Like I think one of my friends recently, we were talking and she said, oh wow, you're doing this and doing that, that's so interesting, you're all over. And I was like, oh my gosh, I achieved one of my goals, but it's not until you were talking to me that I recognized that I achieved it, because on paper, I said it this way, but
Right.
it has occurred, but it occurred in a different way, but it's the same goals. Like, it's like me saying potato, but it occurred as potato. And it's just like,
Yes.
it
Well, and
occurred.
sometimes you set a goal, and as you're out working on that, things pivot and shift just a little bit because either
Absolutely.
they grow, maybe you start thinking bigger,
Mhm.
things change, and maybe you figure out that it shouldn't maybe necessarily look like A, but it's going to be B. But
Mhm.
that's awesome. I mean,
And it's
that's
going to be hash browns. And so
Yes, it's the
it's
hash browns, right? Or
going to be hash
fries.
browns, gourmet hash browns. And who would have thought?
And
Who
who
would
would
have
have
thought?
thought you're still
So
using
true.
potato?
So true. It's still a potato.
Yes.
It is how you've made it. How you've
It
made
is how you made it. I love it. But yeah, no, this journey
it.
has been something, as you mentioned, of pivoting and recognizing, even when I started on this journey, I started saying that, oh, I'm going to do telemedicine. And that's when, it's business I'm starting. But then I recognized my why. That's what, talking about books. I didn't bring all my books up. I know we love talking about books here, but that
Yeah.
was one of the books that I read, Simon Sinek's, Start With Your Why. And it's just like, well, why are you doing this? What is your passion? What's that inside? I love to call it my North Star. And, one of the reasons that I started and entered into business is like a lot of us females, we do it, with family in mind. I said I had a young kid. I would love to be able to spend some time with my kids. But in starting that business, I recognized I am closing the door more than I am having it open.
Right.
So,
Absolutely with them.
I
Yeah.
yes. So I pivoted, and and that's what happens along this journey. So you pivot, and in pivoting, this is where I am now. I'm getting to speak to a lot of interesting people. I'm not just limited to my medical background and what I've learned. I'm meeting people, fascinating people in all industries. Had I only stuck with that particular goal, I would have probably been miserable, because each time I have to keep telling my kids, you have to go outside, you have to go outside, and close the door on them. And I wouldn't get to speak to people and get to know people from all these wonderful different backgrounds outside of medicine.
Yeah. Well, we don't know what we don't know. And so
Absolutely.
sometimes you have to shift. Robert Helms, one of my favorite people in the world, says sometimes you have to say no to the good so you can say yes to the great.
Yes.
Isn't that wonderful? I love it. I love
That's
it.
so true.
Yeah.
That's so true.
And I mean, this is the same thing, like, when we're like applying this to life, and we're applying it, to ourselves individually, and to like even our goals overall. Like sometimes, like you said, where we're starting is not where you're going to end up. So, ladies, like when you're there kicking ass, because you will be
Every
you
day.
will
Every
be
day.
kicking
we're kicking
assets
some
every
assets.
day. The main point of this, we're talking about potatoes and potatoes and French fries,
Yeah.
but our whole point is that where you start is not where you're going to end. And, along the way, you're going to have checkpoints. And during those checkpoints, you really look back to see what you have accomplished. And then most important, celebrate.
Yes. Yes.
Celebrate,
Celebrate. Okay, well, there was the message right there. That was it. That was so good. Oh my God. Well,
It's funny. I was on a call. Hold on. Let me just throw this out
yeah,
there
throw
real
that
fast.
one in there. Throw it in.
So
Yeah.
I was on a call with a couple of ladies the other day, and they said, hey, we're going to have a brag session real quick. We're going to celebrate, what have you done? What can you brag about? And they were like, and I thought, wow, I don't know that I've ever like had a call where we stopped to celebrate something that we've done. And I think that's such a an important, thing to kind of add in to what you're
Mhm.
doing. You should be able to reach out to your people and celebrate the things that you're
Yes.
accomplishing and the things that you're doing, and not have it being bragging, being able to
Yes.
celebrate that. And it's
And
okay
then
to
them being
celebrate.
happy for you. And then,
Yes.
so like we talk about the circles and the people that you need to be around. The people that you need to be around are the ones who are happy to
Yeah.
celebrate with
That's
you
right.
and to
Yeah.
help to uplift you and to say like, hey, wow, this is wonderful. I'm great that you're able to accomplish this. Do you want to do more? Because I can help you do more. How
Mhm.
Yeah.
powerful is that?
Yeah.
Right. But they're
Yes.
also the people who are there when you're feeling low, can
Mm,
pull you up and say, come on, you know,
you got
let's
this.
not go there. Let's not
Yeah.
go there.
Yep.
And let's snap out of it and move on, and that,
Absolutely.
those are the same people. And so I appreciate that about the people in my life that are confident enough in themselves to call me out when I'm
Mhm.
Yeah.
having a moment. And the truth is we're real people. So we all have moments. We all feel
Absolutely.
inadequate. We all feel during certain times, because we're measuring ourselves against something else. And, we need to be, you know, happy with what we've done and where we are.
Mhm.
Um, Courtney talks about this all the time, and I've been reading it, but it's the book, The Gap in the Game. And which
Yeah,
one
that's
are
my
you?
next book.
Oh my gosh,
Which one
girl,
are you? Where are
that
you?
is so
You
good.
Are you in the gap or are you in the game? And
Oh,
you know,
wow.
I choose the game, you know.
Yes.
Well, if you're
So
focusing on the negative and you're focusing on the bad and the negative, you are totally in the gap. And so
Mm.
this book, it gives me chills. It talks about how no matter what the experience is, whether it's a positive experience, a
Woo, I
negative
hear.
experience, there is something good to come from that experience. There are positive things coming from that. And so you can take the short amount of time you have, be upset about something bad that happened, but then
Mhm.
turn around and think about the positive things you're taking from that and get back in the game.
I
yes,
love it. The
definitely.
one that I just finished reading is The Big Leap. It's The
Oh,
Big Leap.
Who's
It's
that by?
ooh.
Who's that
So
by?
that's by Gay Hendricks.
all right.
Big leap.
Yeah, The Big Leap. Yeah. And that was all about like when we all have limitations and we limit ourselves. So you have like our zones that we're in. And when we're all like, oh, I'm in the zone of excellence and you feel great, but your zone of excellence is kind of like that zone where you're doing well, but you know that there's more. And
Yeah.
that the more is the zone of genius.
Oh my God.
I know.
Man.
So in order to move from there, so it's interesting because the book has a goldfish jumping from like a small bowl to a larger bowl. It's called like, yeah, so the
Yeah.
big
I've seen
leap.
that picture. Yes.
Yes, yes. So moving from the zone of excellence to the zone of genius, there's certain mindset that you have to block and you have to recognize certain patterns in your life that is preventing
I am
you
taking so many
from
notes.
yes, that's preventing you from moving to the zone of genius and some sabotage techniques that you incorporate that keeps you from the zone of genius or when you're very close to bring you back to the zone of excellence because our bodies and how we are naturally we get used to being in a certain
Yeah. And some of
yeah
that stuff is instilled into us, as kids,
absolutely
and we
mm-hmm.
carry that on, and we really have to kind of get rid of that and start
Yes,
new habits, which is, that morning centering and focus.
yes,
That is
mm-hmm.
really the beginning of shifting that.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
And
And
bringing you
everything.
out into the big leap, to the zone of genius when you're working at your maximum and you're really producing all that you're made to produce and and your like the goals, just like how this wonderful like ladies kicking assets, like your goal is to really empower women to recognize that having financial literacy is just as important, being able to balance the book. Everything is just as important for you yourself as it is for the family. But if you've often just been relegated to the role of, well, you're just really good at this, you're
Mhm.
not really good at that, then you'll tell yourself that. But then when
Self-loathing.
And that's it, the self-limitation. So to break through that self-limitation, that's when you move from the zone of excellence, because especially if you do something well, then you kind of get complacent.
Right.
And that's where the zone of excellence is, the complacency of where you're doing things well. But the zone of genius is breaking through that complacency to really level up. And
Oh my
that's where the
God, I can't wait to read that
was.
book.
Yes, it's
And I'll order
absolutely
it.
wonderful.
I'm reading it next.
I'm reading Gap in the Gay next.
Yeah,
I'm eating my
excited.
frog right now. I'm redoing
Well-
Brian Tracy's Eat That Frog. But
Yeah.
Well, we will have to have another show where we talk about all the next things after these next views on these books.
Oh,
my
absolutely,
gosh.
absolutely.
Well, you are amazing and such an encouragement. And our time is kind of running to a close here, honestly, but we could talk for hours. I love so much about where you've come from and what you've recognized about yourself and how you've just made some shifts. And as a result of that, you are having such great impact.
You're on a rocket ship.
You are.
I love it.
You are. I mean,
You got off the tricycle and jumped onto
Right?
to the top
I love
mountain bike. Yeah, you really are. You are. I love it. Amazing. Okay, well, Dr. Beckford, tell our viewers how they can find you and access your information.
Absolutely. So I'm very, very active on LinkedIn as Tamara Beckford, MD. That's TAMARA, B as in boy, ECKFORD, and MD. So, or you can just put in Tamara Beckford. You'll find me. You'll find this picture.
Yes, that amazing.
This is my little Zoolander pose, if anyone remembers Zoolander.
I love Zoolander.
Yeah.
But other than that, I am available. My social media handles are Your Caring Docs. That's URCARINGDOCS. So then you can find me on Instagram. Also on Facebook, you can find me on Your Caring Docs, or you can look at my name, Tamara Beckford. I'd love to interact with you guys.
Amazing.
Oh, awesome. So awesome. Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I know how precious your time is, and we just really appreciate you and are so thankful for having you.
Thank you all. This was wonderful. I had a wonderful time, if you guys can tell.
No, thank you. We love that. And so for our viewers, you can always find our information on ladieskickinassets.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We want to make sure we ask you to do that. Until next time, have a great day. And thank you so much, all of you, for your time. Bye.